And across the whole of the UK, they're broadening what they call communitarianism. Massive grants laid out for free sheets and newspapers and free websites and that, and be part of the community, and then bring all these different organisations together. Start off with existing groups or churches and so on, blah, blah, blah. I know the whole format because I've read all their think tank plans and how it works. Then they start telling you, be greener, stop eating meat, blah, 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 blah. Then they put out these kind of local volunteers, start as these commissars to check on you and so on. So far gone, it really is. If society's got problems like Britain has, including with littering or anything else that happens, that's a sign that something else is wrong. Your culture, your whole culture and your tradition has been destroyed. And that's why you're seeing the signs all around you and the mess that's in the streets and all the rest of it. That's deliberate. And telling the folk, oh, we've got more commissars coming out to start fining you and charging you if you don't comply with this, that, and the other, blah, 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 isn't going to fix it. But I'm digressing off the topic here. The future was always planned this way. Now getting back to glyphosate and so on. So all the reports right now always tell you, you've got to start thinking about what you're eating. This is, well, Roundup was developed to eliminate most weeds from genetically modified crops. And that's what it was. It was a big, massive corporate plan. Corporate. Big corporations. Massive corporations. The chemical industry involved in them, right? And genetic engineering and all the rest of it to change everything. And to bring down the population. I read this stuff years ago before they even admitted to all this stuff about population reduction, all the things they could do. Bertrand Russell had it in his own books. From the food that they would feed the people, to their drinking water, what they'd add to it, to the needle, even mentioned the needle. They could change all of society. And here it is. So it's no paranoia involved in what I'm saying here. And Bertrand Russell belonged to every top eugenics groups that happened to be there. He was in the groups with population reduction, eugenics with Julian Huxley, and on and it goes. The whole kit and caboodle, the Macy group, the Frankfurt School. He worked with them all for recreating society, all of them, and the so-called what you thought is the far left, which isn't really the far left at all. The Fabian Society, all the different groups. Lord Bertrand Russell. Anyway, it means that growers are using more Roundup, which could only exacerbate potential negative health effects on people who consume those products. Eating organically grown produce may help to reduce exposure to some pesticides and herbicides, but it's not guarantee that the products are completely free to potentially harmful chemicals. And that's true. They've even allowed them to label things now as organic when they've actually used these kind of different kind of pesticides and so on, depending on which US state or Canadian province you're in. But yeah, you can't keep getting that stuff going through your system, your blood, and through your organs, and then into your bladder too, and down come the men with their prostate cancers, etc., etc. Excretion of the herbicide glyphosate in older adults between 1993 and 2016, another article. And it says use of the herbicide has increased since 1994, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on to talk about, again, that's the JAMA, what they call JAMA network, to do with the effects on society with the pesticides, etc. It says health comes from the ground up. Very interesting way of putting it, isn't it? Health comes from the ground up. And in a natural system, it would be. Charles Massey says, yet chemicals used in agriculture are causing millions of deaths. Susan Chenery meets the writer, intent on changing everything about the way we grow, eat, and think about food. And it's quite interesting about Southeast Australia and how it used to be there, the natural world, and so on, how the people, even the Aborigines, really talked about the spiritual system of the earth, and much like the American Indians and so on. But how it's changed. It says most of our cereal crops, the soya beans, the corn, are all predicated now on the world's most widely used chemical, which is glyphosate, Roundup. Massey says, there's mounting evidence that it's one of the most destructive chemicals ever to get into the system. Its main effect is on the human guts, your intestine, and our entire immune system. And that's why everybody now, by the way, has got problems with their stomachs. And I saw it when it happened, and I was the only person that talked about it on there. I talked about it on there because I saw it in the pharmacies. When the pharmacies suddenly had see, initially, I noticed years ago when everybody started to get allergic to everything. And suddenly whole aisles would be antihistamines. Woof, just things that used to be prescribed, but in prescription only. Oh, bingo. So you now could buy them straight off the shelf. Why? Why was it really bad to have that happen before, but now it's okay to have that now? Well, the next step was when suddenly, at the same time it was announced in Canada, by the way, only because it broke out in Britain, the whole news that we were getting tested as a guinea pigs for all this GM stuff and the pesticide stuff along with it. Because it said Canada had made secret deals with the big agribusiness companies to test the population, all without us knowing about it. And that we'd been on it for 10 years already. Within that 10 years, I noticed the sudden obesity. It wasn't just the amount of food. No, it was literally changing the physiology of the people. And also, I noticed too that another big shelf suddenly appeared. It was all to do with stomach problems. And things which, drugs that used to be prescription only for proton pump inhibitors, as you call them, that really reduced the production of acid in the gut, etc., in the stomach and the gut, were being, you just buy over the counter. Why would that be? At the same time, you're all being tested as guinea pigs, was because they already knew what it did to you. And because Canada already had central databases in Ottawa. I read the articles many years ago when they put the darn things in. They collected all the data of every Canadian, including all their medical history, in real time. All the doctors' offices were putting the stuff in, clinics, hospitals, boom, daily. And they had their pulse on it. They knew damn well what was happening to the people's health. So what did they do? Oh, well, we'll just encourage them to buy this and that'll keep them quiet. If they reduce the symptoms, there'll be less of a blowback, you see. You got to use your own brain, your own eyes. Oh, it's bad to have all that stuff for years and years and years, or 50 years. Oh, it's bad to have that with the doctors, but oh, suddenly you can buy it over the, just go and buy it, help yourself. Start thinking, folks. So they have a complete contempt for the general public. They won't use their own brains. And that's very, very important. It's awfully important, folks. Just like Maxwell, the big mogul in Britain, who ripped off the public for millions of pounds, then fled the country, who, in the movie, which is true, the book was the same, people who were invited to dinner on his one of his big corporate buildings, and he would have it on the roof, said by a butler and all that, and lots of wine and drinking. And then they go and pee over the edge on the people passing below. And people says, oh, we can't do that. The people will notice and we'll get charged. No. And Maxwell says, no, the people, they see nothing. They notice nothing. That's the attitude. That is the attitude of the elite folks and the psychopaths. That's their attitude. Complete contempt. Albert Pike said the same thing. That the people who will not use their own intelligence, meaning their brain, their mind, their intelligence, if you won't use your own mind, then you are, by choice and consent, because you must consent to be used, you are a stake on the table and a beast of burden by choice and consent. There you go. That's what you are. And that's what they say. And that's standard amongst all the elite. And the Huxleys and all the rest of them too. The Julian Huxleys. And with incredibly good psychological techniques and neurosciences and so on, and massive indoctrination, you're being trained just to accept it all. The engineering of consent. That's what it's called. Engineer consent. Bernays and many others were after him. Said it too. Anyway, it says the evidence is that affects the gut and the immune system, though it's not the sole factor, and it's a complex thing, but it's the gut that drives our whole immune system. It's our second brain. It goes on and on and on. about scientists who believe we're entered a new geological epoch, the life-threatening Anthropocene, where human impact has permanently altered the Earth's geology and sustaining systems, causing ecological destruction, etc., etc., etc. So you've got eugenics completely interwoven with it. All this stuff, remember, they try to find ways to terrify the public to give up all their rights. And that's what they hit upon a long time ago. Oh, we're destroying the planet, we're dangerous, blah, 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 blah. Give up your rights. Feel bad about yourself. Give up your rights. And that's what you've got. And then, as Queensland dairies close, where will fresh milk come from in the future? As he's faced with an aging workforce, $1 milk, a poultry farm get price and pressure from the south. Queensland dairy farmers are strong to keep their businesses. Then they go on and on and on about it too. You're going to understand they're going to do away with everything that's good protein and milk and eat meat too. The UN has already pushed for eliminating that from your diet completely, under the guise of saving, the earth again, and they cause flatulence and blah 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 blah. All that stuff. Every excuse under the book that the Club of Rome came up with in their think tank to find ways to get you to give up all your rights. And they invented it all. Doesn't matter, because they've trained enough people to believe it all. As they spray the skies like crazy. I'm also going to put up tonight too some articles to do with the big corporations that are obviously funding the geoengineering and what's happening. Also one to do with the smoke smells. They've talked about this, it's probably African dust that's coming in with the hurricanes across Europe and so on, and the sky's red and yada yada yada, and then the planes, stacks of planes were being grounded because they're smelling the smoke. It was a kind of sulfuric smell. This is the stuff they're putting in the spray. They've added to the spray now. That's what it is. I'll put that link up as well. So here's one company, for instance. There are many of them. They're into things like weather modification, advanced materials for atmospheric and environmental technologies. Interesting. Now this company too is right into pharmaceuticals, electronics, aerospace, defense, automotive, optics, green technology. That's all this stuff, they're nanoscale stuff, etc., etc. And they use got mines in different countries they use, obviously, to get all the stuff out that they're, using on you. They've done analysis in the atmosphere after they can do crystals and so on, X-ray diffraction, etc., etc., etc. Big time. This is not novice stuff. They've been at it for a long time, obviously. So they manufacture numerous products for customers in the weather modification and environment science industries, including nucleating agents, tracers. Remember, they were spraying stuff in the skies before in Britain, elsewhere, and there were cancerous tracers and so on. Anyway, other advanced materials. Applications include cloud seeding, storm prevention, meteorological support services, and environmental monitoring. They can also bring in storms and create them. As we all know, American Elements maintains industrial-scale production for all its cloud seeding and weather modification materials. Additionally, we provide customer guidance on topics such as the selection of appropriate materials for aerial and ground-based cloud seeding, trace gas detection, blah, blah, chemical formation and material safety data. Selected products applied to the weather modification industry are ammonium iodide, bismuth iodide, calcium chloride, and potassium chloride, so silver chloride and silver iodide solution, and silver potassium iodide, and so on. You actually have links add it to from the website to the primary source of the posts and previous posts. Interesting too, they say, please join us and our customers and co-sponsors Chevron and Rio Tinto at the 30th annual meeting at CTAC, S-E-T-A-C, November 15th, 2017 in Minneapolis. And so there's one big meeting that they're going into. Now, Rio Tinto, as well, I've mentioned before too, they're, I think, a big Rothschild agency. I think the Queen had shares in it too. And also have Chevron and so on. And this is for the world, the stuff that they're spraying. Big business, massive business. And this is what they're telling you, this kind of stuff. So it's I tell you, it really is something when you think about it, isn't it? This is what they can publish and tell you about. Quite something indeed. But that's how it's done, isn't it? But anyway, this American Elements Corporation is the largest metals and chemical supplier in the world. Interesting. The corporation is a weather and climate modification material supplier to major military and defense industry entities. There you go. And then they do it all and they blame you for causing strange weather. Because they must make you believe it's all your fault. So give up all your rights and let yourself be managed and stop in a post-industrial world for you, anyway, and going into a post-consumer world, for that's Agenda 21, then you just can't live like you've lived before, and you've got to go into what really is a form of poverty, but they like to call it austerity. At the United Nations, it's good for you, apparently. And you'll die off quicker, and you'll have less protein to eat, and so on and so on. So you get, yeah, you're going to have a lot of problems, and away you go. It's all planned, eh? All planned. But they must have your cooperation to die off the way they want you to die off, without complaining. Rather sad but true, isn't it? But they've never given you so much free or even cheap entertainment as they have today to keep you occupied with nonsense. You don't get news anymore. You don't even get any education anymore. All by design. For those who really do value thinking, keep on doing it. And don't give up, because it's so easy just to give up and join the herd. Basically, that's what they want you to do. Give up, join the herd. They're all chewing the grass there. You just don't give up, because there's a freedom in knowing. Even if you feel helpless to an extent as to what exactly to do about it all, there is a freedom in knowing what's going on. You are a creature with incredible ability of sentience. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't let the enemy turn it against you by making you depressed. Don't let that happen. And you can get through to the occasional person. Not many, doesn't take many, but occasional person in your lifetime. You can influence to them to such an extent that down the road, who knows what can happen. That's how it's always been. The occasional one here and there can pass on incredible knowledge that affects people down the road. That's how it works. That's how it really works. And that's what they really are afraid of. That's why they're monitoring everybody in such incredible real time now, to see what you're thinking or talking about or chatting about and so on. And Russell again talked about that too. Eventually we'll catch them all, he says. We'll catch them all with scientific techniques. All that time ago, before they gave you the internet. From myself, Alan Watt, from Ontario, Canada, it's good night. May your God or your gods go with you.